Hello, it's Mike Rasmussen. I am going to talk to you about the business percentage of your mileage that you would incur on a business vehicle and how you're supposed to keep track of it. How to make it easy for me and how to make it easy for you. So for the first part of this, I'm going to walk you through what that means and define the word contemporaneous. Contemporaneous. Okay? That means doing it at real time. How's that? Okay. So when if you have a small business or you're engaged in a business and you have your own car or a company provides you a car, you incur expenses. And there are two ways to keep track of your vehicle. You can either use the standard mileage rate or you can use the actual expenses. Either way, if you use the standard mileage rate, you need to identify the business portion of the miles times a certain rate. If you use the actual, you need to take your business percentage times the total of incurred costs. Okay, so that percentage of miles, what we determine as business miles, are what we're talking about. Okay, and how that impacts. And I'm going to show you what I do and what I encourage my taxpayers, my clients, to meet me in the middle to use a little tool so that you can keep track of that business mile. Because what do I have to do? Sometimes a small business owner just doesn't know what they need to, what do I need to provide, my advisor or my CPA when they prepare my taxes, or, what do I do? Okay, so let me take you to, here's the form. So here's a simple little, here's my, I call it PPP, it's the Paycheck Protection Program for, but here's my sample. And in this situation, we have a automobile that is used for business, 75% for business. I got to report it on this form. So I have to go into this form, depreciation. I have to list what this vehicle is. I have to describe it, and I have to put the date that it's placed in service. And then right here, business percentage. It's this business investment use percentage that is the challenge, because what happens is, even though you may have paid $25,000 for the car, if you're only using it for 75% for business, you can't write off or take the standard mileage with only up to the business percentage. Okay, so where does that, and how can you keep track of that number independently? What happens if you don't? The other are questions. So in this case, I did an example. Here's some information on use of vehicles. So I have to put down total miles driven and commuting miles, because then the difference is going to be total. So here's the total business, don't include commuting. So I put 15,000, 5,000 for commuting, and here's the total miles driven. Okay, a few other questions that you have to certify that basically substantiate what you did. So was the vehicle available for personal use during off-doing hours? Obviously, you can actually put yes or no. Was the vehicle used for more than 5% owner-related person? Okay, and then is another vehicle available for personal use? So these questions, then, if they're like, if they go support more of what you have. For example, was there another vehicle available for personal use? Well, you may use this vehicle for personal use. If this is no, then that means you would expect these total miles to have some other personal here. So depending on which way you check them out. So if you did not have another vehicle and you put personal miles right here, then how did that happen? So these boxes can just trigger a response from the IRS and say, how come you checked this box and you had personal miles? Makes sense? So you have to check the box right. Not only get the miles right, but you got to check the boxes right. Now also, there's another section, questions for employees provide vehicles for use by their employees. So if you're a small business and you're providing your employees vehicles. Here are all the written documentation. I'm not going to get into that in the weeds there. Now, here is a how do you keep track of it? Here's the manual way. Let me go to, this is page 27. Here it is. Travel, gift, and car expenses. It's a publication put out by the IRS. So let's go down. What does it look like? Well, I have been through many audits, and what do you have to keep? You've got to keep beginning and ending mileage to break out and then you got to keep your, here, date, place, time, purpose. You've got to keep track of all this for not only all your expenses, but this is just a sample that the IRS is giving you. Okay, so that means you've got to keep track of date, place, time, purpose, wherever you went of every mile. And believe me, you're not going to be the only one that goes, well, how am I going to make that happen? Okay, so when I type in the word contemporaneous there, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so now let's go to show you how I do it. So I use a simple little tool called Mile IQ, and all it is doing here is these are just places I have gone, and I am able to then on my phone I'm able to actually I document right there whether it's personal or business, and at the end I can sit here and I get a summary, and I do it by day. And anytime I jump in the car, it's pretty cool. I then am able to just generate a report, and it's done. I then can take that total mileage. I have business broken down, personal broken down, and then what am I going to be able to do? I am then going to be able to give it to, well, in my case, myself, and I'll be able to take it directly from here. Well, why is this important? Well, here's a little article on what is a contemporaneous mileage log. So this is what the IRS, this is what they want to know. So here it is. This was a situation where in a tax court, he never kept a mileage, and he tried to do it after the fact. So here it is. To pass muster with the IRS, a log must be made at or near time. Okay, that's contemporaneous. IRS wants you to keep a contemporaneous mileage log. You should aim to keep records daily. Well, we all know. So what do you got to do? What do you got to keep? Starting odometer, overall business commuting, non-commuting personal mileage, dates of your business trips, places you drove for work, the business trips, or the business purpose of your trips. Well, that's what I do here. So I'm going to show you here in a second of exactly how I do that, how simple it is, how it's reported here, and then that is my documentation for contemporaneous, so that I can take a business percentage of my, so when I fill out my tax return, these amounts will come from a source that I will be able to, not only keep for documentation, but I will be able to use in an audit if I ever need to. And it's online, so I'll download the reports and information, and I have that as a backup. One more thing. I advise every taxpayer, for every car you are taking, every vehicle you're taking any type of deduction for, get an oil change at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. Why? Beginning and end of the year. An oil change. The reason why is because you get it tracks your odometer reading. So I have done so many audits where I pull out the Jiffy Lube or whatever the oil, when I took it into the dealership. There's my beginning and there's my end. In the interim, I'm going to have all the documentation on Mile IQ. I can print out where I went, where I did, and I have substantiated. I've met those substantiation requirements. It makes it easy. It's so uncomfortable when I have to sit with a client or talk to them on the phone and go, okay, so how many business miles did you drive this year? Well, what did I have last year? And what did I, just use last year, whatever. With telecommuting and with now not flying, and people are now really using their vehicles a lot more, this is becoming, and I'm going to be doing another where you've got your home office and how you establish that home office. So now in this pandemic, I'm bringing, here's a tool to start keeping track of, now that when you leave your house, where do you go? Is it personal or business, and how do you document it? Okay, Now I'm going to show you how I personally do it. All right. So that was a boring way of keeping record of your mileage. Contemporaneously, boring. On a piece of paper. Who does it? I know you don't do it. So here's all I do. I jump in my car. I have my phone with me. I safely set it somewhere. I turn on location services. And as I go, the app, which is MileIQ, is recording the mileage. When I'm done, wherever I go, I can then, when I come out of the car, I go carry on my day. And let's just say I'm watching TV. I pull up the app and I say business or personal. Business or personal. Automatically uploads the record over to the internet, which is what I showed you. And now I have, in total, by month, and I have satisfied the record keeping contemporaneously for the IRS. Go get an app.